Before anything else, let me just quickly say this. Number 1. Opinions are subjective, so don't feel the need to call me a poo-poo head in the comments. Number 2. Some statements may be exaggerated for added comedic effect. Number 3. Yes, I know I have no views, shut up. Welcome to Persona, the 100-hour-long turn-based JRPG that gives us nerds the illusion of interacting with women. I've only played Persona 5, 4, and 3, so that's what I'll be talking about, but I think it's important to understand where these opinions are coming from before anything else. So with that said, I should mention that I hate most turn-based RPGs.
What? No.
Now the first thing you're thinking is, why did I play these games in the first place? And the answer is simply that my tiny little brain went along with the internet's opinion and decided to give it a try to see if maybe the game would live up to the hype. And because taking risks like this may let me find some cool games that I would otherwise never play. Now why do I not like most turn-based JRPGs? Well, it's very simple. Because of this. And this. And also this.
Because I'm you. No, I'm me. I'm me, he says.
Now, just because a game has these elements doesn't mean I instantly dislike it or anything. In fact, even I occasionally feel the need to play them for a bit. My main issue is that they aren't made to be played for a bit. They're made to devour an entire week of your life. Not that making a game long or with a ton of content is bad, it's just that if you're going to make a game long, you better have a good reason to do so, or else I'm going to get tired halfway through and literally die of boredom if I try to continue. But, with all of that said, Persona 5, despite being literally 100 hours long, accomplishes what I previously established by having the gameplay be split into 3 different ways. The typical RPG dungeon experience, the regular student life, stat maxing and time management side, and the visual novel / anime girl dating sim side for the massive nerds such as myself. This is great since it helps prevent the game from feeling too repetitive, since you're always doing something different. Now, does this mean that this game is perfect and has a little something for everyone with no flaws? God, no. The combat can still drag sometimes despite the variation in gameplay, and the characters, though almost all of them have their depth, can easily fall into common stereotypes and tropes. The villains also suffer from this. Though they do an excellent job at making you hate them, which is good, they are cartoonishly evil with literally no depth or redeeming qualities whatsoever. Not that every villain needs to be sympathetic, but to me personally those are usually a lot more effective. Finally, though the game gives you the choice of who you want to interact with, the confident events themselves don't really have any effect on the game's story. They will act and say the same things they would even if you didn't talk to them at all. Bear in mind, I understand why it's done this way. It would have taken God knows how long to take into account the specific confident progression for each player, but I do think it's something worth mentioning. But damn, that music.
You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're done. Gonna be a show to remember. Take over, it's time to boogie down. Make over, nothing's gonna take away my life.
Not to mention the Mount Everest of style this game has with all the cool looking UI and all the attack animations that you could literally watch for hours on end. At the end of the day, I generally liked the story and characters, the combat was serviceable enough not to get in the way of my enjoyment, and it kept my attention to the very end, which says a lot given its length. Unfortunately for me, it's all downhill from here. Now you're probably thinking, why would this game be any worse than 5, even though they both have those 3 sides to the gameplay I mentioned earlier? Well, this is why. I mean, I don't know about you, but exploring a monotonous labyrinth that looks the same anywhere you go looks a hell of a lot more boring than going here, here, and here, all in the same dungeon. I don't even understand why they bothered making every floor randomly generated if all the randomly generated rooms are going to look the exact same anyways. Is the right diagonal room that much better than the square room on the Persona 4 room tier list? I understand this might seem like a minor issue, but remember, repetition kills any motivation for me to play a game, and this doesn't help at all. Other than that, I suppose the game is fine. The music is still great, social links are cool, although I did find some of the ranks within them to be a bit short. And not just with the random characters, I mean literally the most important characters right after the main squad. And the fact that you only get to use any new party member after finishing the dungeon focus on them means that by the time they're finally fighting, the attention has already shifted off of them. I mean, in Persona 5 they have these awesome sequences where the characters awaken their personas around the beginning of the palace, so the entire palace itself ends up being focused on them, their character arc, which really helps making the process of growing your squad feel important. Not to mention this, and this is not anywhere near as cool as this, and especially this. This game was definitely more of a mixed bag, but I did still finish it, so there's that I suppose. Now we descend into the pits of hell. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I mold super hard. Playing this game unironically makes me want to rip my dick off. For starters, rather than multiple smaller dungeons, this game only has one big one called Tartarus. And rather than having to complete a dungeon before a deadline, all you really need to do is grind so you level up enough to fight a boss whenever a full moon happens. Now, I know this doesn't seem like it would be a lot different, but the fact that you have no real way to tell whether or not you're ready for the boss is awful. I mean, usually I just kinda go as far in the Tartarus as the game allows me to at the moment, while fighting any shadows that appear on my way, and yet from what I can tell from other people's playthroughs, I am a bit underleveled for my point in the game, so I guess I still have to grind some more. Despite the amount I already do making me want to die. In this game, they didn't have social links for all the characters of the party. I mean, the girls do, so you can date them like the total degenerate you are, but the boys are left to rot. Mind you, they do all get some attention during the main story, but I still think it wasn't really enough. The music is still great, even if a bit too overused. I mean, Iwata Dai Dorm has literally become a meme because of how often you hear it. There probably should have been some more variety in the music. I do feel like it's important to mention that in this game in particular, if you're playing the OG PS2 version, which I did, you cannot directly control the actions of your teammates during battle. You can give them tactics for them to follow, but not specific moves. This, to many people, makes the game unplayable, and personally, I'm really mixed on this as well. I mean, for regular battles, where you just want the AI to use the weaknesses against enemies and to heal you when you're low, it works just fine. But for bosses, where a specific strategy and combination of moves is essential to beating them, one foul move from the AI is enough to get you killed. The argument I heard for this mechanic is that it helps make you and your character feel like a leader, but when they literally don't speak a single line of dialogue other than Persona, I find it hard to believe that. Also, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it feels like the battles take eons to end, like much more than any of the other two games did. Unfortunately, I have to add that I've been playing this game on and off for about a year now, and yet I'm still only around halfway through it, so take this section of the video with a grain of salt, given that I did not finish the game. I really didn't want to do it so I could have as much credibility as possible, and so I wouldn't be called a dirty IGN reviewer, but this game was far too slow and dull for me, and I think that 50 hours is more than enough to make a point. Personally, if you want to enjoy the story of this game, then I heavily recommend watching the movies instead. They're super faithful recreation of the game's plot. Whatever you do, stay away from this game, unless you have the pinches of a divine being or are really into this genre. And hey, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say with this is, all JRPGs are dog shit, unless it's this one.